He was 28 and I thought I had everything figured out. Life was on track, solid career, a comfortable home, and a future I could actually envision. I didn't need a fairy tale romance. I wanted a partner, someone who could stand by me in the everyday grind. And that's exactly what Claire was: smart, funny, sharp, everything I needed. She wasn't just my wife, she was my teammate. It wasn't always smooth sailing, but I had no doubts about us. I remember when I didn't get a promotion I'd been working for. I was frustrated, maybe a little bitter, but Claire? She just held my hand and told me, "You'll get the next one. You're unstoppable." Back then, I believed her. Now, I'm not sure who she is anymore. Then there's my younger brother, James. He was always the golden boy. The one who could charm anyone: teachers, girlfriends, even our parents. Growing up, he was the favorite. I wasn't bitter about it, well, not much, but I had to work for everything I got, and he didn't. Yet. Despite the attention he always got, James and I were close. He wasn't just my brother, he was my best friend. We spent summers together, causing trouble and having each other's backs. James was the kind of guy everyone loved, and for a long time, that didn't bother me. Family is family, right? So, when Claire and James hit it off, I didn't think much of it. He was my brother, and she was my wife. I figured they'd get along just fine, but over time, I noticed things starting to change. James was around more, not just for family dinners or casual weekend hangouts, but showing up at the house on weekdays. At first, I brushed it off, thinking it wasn't a big deal. But then I started noticing how Claire acted when I came home. One evening, I walked in to find them sitting on the couch, laughing over something on her phone. Claire saw me and quickly locked her screen. Her smile faded, and my gut dropped. I didn't confront her right away. I didn't have proof. But something about the way she avoided my gaze stayed with me. Later that night, I tried to play it cool. I casually asked her, "What were you two laughing about earlier?" She shrugged it off. "Just a meme, nothing serious." I let it go, but my gut was telling me something wasn't right. The next day, at dinner, I casually said, "Aren't James and you spending a lot of time together?" She laughed it off. "He's your brother. Don't be so dramatic, he just likes hanging out." But something about her response felt off. People don't just hang out with married couples for no reason. I started paying more attention. Claire had been restless lately, talking about wanting more from life, feeling trapped. I thought I was doing enough, but maybe I wasn't. Maybe James was filling a void I didn't even know existed in her. That didn't excuse what they were doing, but it made me wonder if she was looking for something, anything. So, I called up my best friend, Eric. If anyone could help me figure this out, it was him. He was calm and level-headed, the perfect voice of reason. At first, Eric tried to reassure me. "You're overthinking it," he said. "James is annoying, sure, but he's your brother. Claire wouldn't cross that line. She's smart." But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. "It just doesn't feel right," I said. "If I find out they're crossing the line, they're both out of my life." Eric didn't hesitate. "You're right to trust your gut. Whatever happens, don't let them make you feel crazy. Keep your eyes open." Then came the barbecue. Just a normal family get-together, right? But when one of my cousins jokingly said, "Man, Claire and James are like two peas in a pod," my heart sank. The fact that others had noticed made everything feel real. That was when I realized I wasn't imagining things. This wasn't just in my head. I started keeping my distance, playing the long game. I wasn't obsessed, but I wasn't blind either. The way Claire defended James every time I mentioned him, the inside jokes they shared, the subtle glances, they were all adding up. I wasn't going to make a move just yet. I needed more proof. And I wasn't about to confront them without it. But the more I observed, the more I realized I wasn't just dealing with an affair. This wasn't just about them sneaking around behind my back. They were planning something, and whatever it was bigger than I thought. One night, I knew I had to do something. I needed help to make sure I covered all my bases. So, I called up Mark, a family friend and lawyer I trusted. Mark was the kind of guy who didn't waste time on speculation. "When you get me the proof, we'll figure out what to do next," he said. I wasn't the kind of man who tolerates disrespect. I never had been. If Claire and James thought they could tear my life apart, they were gravely mistaken. I wasn't going to sit back and wait for the storm to hit. I was going to walk straight into it. That's when I hatched a plan. I had to leave town for work, or at least, that's what I let Claire think. I packed a bag, said goodbye, and then instead of heading to the airport, I checked into a hotel across town. It wasn't paranoia, it was strategy. If something was going on, I needed to see it with my own eyes. Words and assumptions didn't matter. Proof was everything. The first day was quiet. Claire texted me throughout, Like everything was normal. Her texts were sweet, too sweet. Hope works not too stressful, she wrote. I almost laughed. She was good, I'll give her that. But I knew the truth would come out eventually. It always does. On the second day, my instincts paid off. I received an alert from the tracking app I'd secretly installed on her phone. She wasn't at home, wasn't at the grocery store, nowhere she'd normally be. She was at James's apartment. I didn't feel anger right away. It wasn't like the movies. It was colder, everything just clicked into place. I needed to see how far this would go. So, I followed them. I waited in my car across from a coffee shop, watching them sit together, laughing, leaning in close. It wasn't innocent. Her hand brushed his arm at one point, and something in me snapped. Not from hurt, no, this was something darker. They thought they'd gotten away with it, but I had them now. My camera clicked as I snapped photos of their betrayal. But then something else hit me. It wasn't just an affair. Claire had been withdrawing money from our account, small amounts at first, then larger sums. It didn't make sense. I thought maybe it was just her usual spending habits, but this felt different. Mark confirmed my suspicions. 2 days later, he called me. The money's been funneled into an account that doesn't belong to either of them, he said. The name on the account is Victor Kane. What the hell is Victor Kane? I asked, my stomach churning. Victor Kane is trouble, Mark said. He's scammed people out of thousands through fake investment schemes. He's been flagged for fraud a few times, but he's slippery. No convictions yet. Looks like he's got James wrapped up in one of his schemes, and your wife's been funding it. My heart dropped. This wasn't just about cheating anymore. They weren't just betraying me, they were playing me. They were using my money to fund some shady scam. And now, I had to figure out what to do about it. I was spiraling. The realization that it wasn't just an affair, it was a plot to drain everything I'd worked for made my stomach churn. James and Claire were tangled up in something far more sinister than I'd imagined. And now, my money was part of their twisted game. But I wasn't about to let them get away with it. I needed to handle this carefully. I wasn't just going to confront them in a fit of rage. No, this was bigger than that. I had to play the long game. Mark was the kind of lawyer who could make this whole situation explode in their faces. But I needed to keep my cool. They hadn't seen what was coming yet. So, I made a decision. I didn't want to get too emotional about this. I'd already confronted Claire in my mind. It wasn't about her anymore. It was about making sure I didn't lose everything they'd been planning to take from. I went back to my house that night, earlier than expected. I could see Claire sitting at the kitchen counter, sipping her coffee, phone in hand. She looked up and froze for half a second, like she was caught off guard. Then, she forced a smile and said, "You're back early. How was the trip?" I didn't answer right away. I just dropped my bag by the door and leaned against the wall. Figured I'd surprise you. She laughed, trying to cover up the nervous edge in her voice. "Well, that's great," she said, but I could tell she was trying too hard. I let the silence hang in the air. Claire didn't handle silence well. I wanted her to feel the pressure. I just watched her, calm and steady, as she babbled in about her day, trying to fill the void I'd left. But I didn't move. I was waiting for her to slip up. Finally, I made my first move. "So, how's James been lately?" I asked, my tone casual, like I was asking about the weather. Her spoon froze midair, and she looked at me with a narrow eye lens. "Fine, I guess." "Why?" "Oh, no reason," I replied, leaning back in my chair. "Just seems like you two have been spending a lot of time together." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Are you really doing this again? He's your brother." I smiled, but it wasn't a kind one. "Yeah, my brother." I leaned forward. "Funny how that works." Her jaw tightened. "Oh, you're being paranoid. You've been working too much. Maybe you should take a break." I didn't respond right away. I just let the silence fill the space again. Then, without giving her a chance to keep talking, I pulled out my phone and slid it across the table. She stared at the screen, her face draining of color as she saw the photos I'd taken of her and James at the coffee shop, laughing together, leaning in too close. She stammered, "Hey, it's not what it looks like. I wasn't buying it. It looks like my wife and my brother are sneaking around behind my back." She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Just tears. Big, dramatic ones that I had seen too many times before. The kind meant to manipulate. But I wasn't moved anymore. Not after everything I had seen, everything I had learned. "Save it," I said, my voice low. "Steady. I gave you the benefit of the doubt for weeks. I trusted you, and this is how you repay me." She cried harder. "Nothing happened," she said, voice shaking. "We were just talking." I repeated her words, leaning forward. "Talking? At his apartment? At a coffee shop when you thought I wasn't around? That's some interesting talking." She tried to deny it again, but it wasn't working. She knew I had her. That night, I packed a bag. I wasn't about to stick around and let her manipulate me. Claire begged me to stay. She cried. Said we could work things out. But there's no working things out when someone's willing to betray you like that. Trust doesn't come back once it's broken. As I drove away, something inside me shifted. The version of myself that was naive, trusting, gone. What replaced him was colder, sharper, and more calculated. I didn't leave that house to sulk or wallow. I left because I needed distance. I needed to figure out my next move. And I wasn't going to let my emotions take control. I was in this for the long haul. The next day, I laid everything out for Mark: photos, tracking logs, the bank statements that showed Claire had been withdrawing money from our accounts, and funneling it into an account under a different name. I had it all. Mark wasn't surprised. This isn't just an affair, he said, flipping through the photos I'd taken. It's calculated, premeditated. And that's when I realized it wasn't just about them betraying me. It was about them trying to take what I had built. James had always been jealous of me: life, my career, my house. Maybe I hadn't noticed the signs before, but now it was all clear. And Claire? She'd mentioned feeling stuck a few times, but I thought I was doing enough. Turns out, maybe I wasn't enough. I had to dig deeper. I wasn't going to let them get away with it. But before I went after them, I had to make sure everything was locked down. I made a plan. I knew Claire would be at home the next day, so I made arrangements to leave town for work. Well, that's what I let her think. But instead of heading to the airport, I checked into a hotel across town. The first day, I got nothing. She played it cool, texting me as if everything was normal. But on the second day, I got a notification from the tracking app I'd installed on her phone. She wasn't home. She wasn't at the store. She wasn't at any of the places she usually went. She was at James's apartment. I wasn't angry, not yet. No. What I felt was something much colder. I followed them. I watched as they left his apartment, laughing and talking as if nothing was wrong. I wasn't surprised. But it hit me like a brick wall when I realized they weren't just sneaking around behind my back, they were betraying me in ways I hadn't even fully grasped yet. I wasn't going to confront them right then. Not yet. I needed more proof. But I knew one thing: this wasn't just an affair. This was a betrayal of the highest order. They were playing me. And I wasn't going to let them get away with it. The more I watched, the more I realized how deep their deception went. It wasn't just about the affair, it was about my money. They'd been siphoning funds, and I knew it wasn't only a matter of time before I had to go after them. I couldn't afford to let my emotions dictate my actions anymore. It wasn't just an affair, it was a full-on betrayal. I had all the proof I needed, but I had to be careful. They thought they were being slick, hiding their tracks. But I had them right where I wanted them. The game wasn't over yet. It had only just begun. I didn't confront Claire right away after I got the proof. I couldn't. I needed to set everything up before I made my next move. Mark, my lawyer, was working behind the scenes, making sure my financial security was locked down. I wasn't going to let them take a single cent of what I had built. The plan was coming together, piece by piece. They thought they could steal from me, use me as a stepping stone for their own gains, but they were wrong. The next day, I checked everything once more: accounts, documents, bank transfers. It made sure I wasn't missing anything. It was like I was preparing for battle. I had all the ammunition I needed: photos, tracking logs, evidence of money being funneled into Victor Kane's account. I wasn't just going to let them walk away. If they wanted to play dirty, I was going to play smarter. I was also digging deeper into Victor Kane's operations. He was a known con artist, but I needed more information to understand how deep James and Claire had gotten involved with him. Mark filled me in on all the details. Victor's been running scams for years, Mark said. He preys on people like James, desperate for quick cash, too arrogant to see the red flags. He promised James a risk-free investment deal. All James had to do was convince someone to fund him, and that's where Claire came in. That hit me like a punch to the gut. It wasn't just that they were betraying me. They were planning on taking everything I had: my money, my life, my trust, and dissing it to line their pockets. The anger inside me started to rise, but I knew I had to stay focused. I couldn't let my rage cloud my judgment. I had to confront them, but I wasn't going to be reckless. Not with everything on the line. I called up Eric, my best friend, again. I needed someone to talk to. "You really going to confront James?" he asked, his voice steady. I could tell he was trying to keep me grounded. "I have to," I said, my jaw tightening. "He's not just my brother. He's a liar, a thief. And Claire, she's not who I thought she was. I'm done playing the nice guy." Eric didn't say much after that. He just reminded me, "Don't lose your cool. You're better than this." I wasn't sure if I could keep my emotions in check, but I had to try. I wasn't the man I used to be, and I wasn't going to let them push me around. This was the point where I started to change. The next day, I decided it was time to confront James. I didn't call ahead or give him any warning. I drove straight to his apartment. I wasn't going to let him get away with what he'd done. When I knocked on his door, he opened it, and I could see the fear in his eyes immediately. He wasn't expecting me. "Can we talk?" he stammered, already trying to backpedal. I slammed the door behind me, making sure he knew this wasn't going to be a casual conversation. "You've got one chance," I said, stepping closer, my voice sharp. "Tell me the truth, now." James's face drained of color. He started shaking, hands up in defense. "It's not what do you think," he mumbled. "We didn't." I cut him off, my voice low, but intense. "I've got photos, tracking logs, bank statements." "You think I don't know what you're doing?" James froze. He could see the evidence in my hand. I was done playing games. I stepped closer, leaning in. "I know exactly what you've been doing. You didn't just sleep with my wife. You tried to take everything I've worked for." James's hands were trembling as he tried to back away. "It wasn't my idea," he started to say, but I wasn't having it. "Don't," I growled. "Don't try to pin this on Claire like you're some innocent bystander. You were in on this every damn step of the way." His mouth opened, but no words came out. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the bank statements Mark had uncovered. I tossed them on his coffee table. "See that? That's your name on the account. That's you stealing from me, planning to leave me with nothing. You're not just a liar, James. You're a thief." He tried to make excuses, but I wasn't listening. I leaned in closer, my voice dropping to a cold whisper. "You've got one chance. Tell me everything about Victor Kane." For the first time, James didn't try to deny anything. His face paled as he looked at me, and I could see the fear in his eyes. "I don't know what you're talking about," he stammered, but I wasn't going to let him off that easy. "I know about the count," I said. "I know about the money. Victor's not your business partner. He's a con artist, and you're too stupid to see it. You're just a pawn in his game." James looked like he was about to break. His hands were shaking as he held them up defensively. "It wasn't supposed to go this far," he whispered, his voice shaky. "Victor promised me a way out. I needed the money. We both did." I leaned in closer. "You dragged Claire into this mess. You brought him into our lives. And now, you're going to tell me everything, or I'll make sure Victor knows you've turned on him." For a moment, I saw true fear in his eyes. "You don't know what he's capable of," James whispered, but I wasn't fazed. "Not my problem," I said coldly. "You made this mess. You clean it up." I left his apartment that day feeling colder than I'd ever been. It was a moment of finality. I knew that everything from that point on would be different. But James still wasn't done. 2 days later, my mom called. And this time, it wasn't about fixing things, it was about smoothing over the mess. She told me, her voice too calm, almost as if she were trying to downplay everything. "Families fight, but we forgive each other." "Forgive him?" I asked, incredulous. "He slept with my wife. He tried to steal from me. And you want me to forgive him?" "He didn't mean for things to get so bad," she said, as if that explained everything. "He's going through a rough time." I couldn't believe it. "Don't call me again about this," I said, hanging up before she could respond. I was done playing peacemaker. I wasn't going to let them manipulate me anymore. Walking away from James's apartment wasn't the end of the story, it was only the beginning of the fallout. Claire's betrayal wasn't something I could just ignore. James wasn't just my brother anymore. He was a stranger. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I couldn't just rebuild my life. I had to protect it, piece by piece. And the first thing I needed to do was lock everything down. I wasn't going to let them get away with this. Not now. Not ever. It was finally time to take the gloves off. The truth was out, and I wasn't going to let Claire and James escape the mess they'd made. Everything I had worked for, my career, my house, my savings, was at risk, and I wasn't about to let them take it from me without a fight. They'd underestimated me. I wasn't the same guy I used to be, the one who trusted easily and believed in loyalty. Now, I was a man on a mission. Mark, my lawyer, was working tirelessly behind the scenes, using all the evidence I had gathered to secure my financial future. Every transfer, every withdrawal, every shady deal Claire and James had been involved in, nothing would be left unchecked. They thought they were smart, sneaking around and playing me for a fool, but I was playing a different game now. I wasn't going to just sit back and let this drag on. I knew that once I got everything locked down, it was time to make my next move. I had already cut off access to my finances. Mark had frozen all of our joint accounts, and Claire and James were locked out of everything. It was the first step in ensuring they couldn't take a single cent more from me. I wasn't done with Claire just yet, though. I had to make sure she understood that this was the end. The divorce papers had been carefully prepared airtight, with evidence of her affair and the financial betrayal she had been a part of. She had no leverage left. When the papers landed on her doorstep, I was ready for whatever came next. She called me immediately. Her voice was shaking, a mix of anger and desperation. "You're divorcing me?" she hissed, as if the idea of me walking away was a shock to her. "You can't just throw everything away like this." I almost laughed at her audacity. "Throw everything away?" I said. "Claire, you did that the second you started sneaking around with James. The second you decided to take what wasn't yours. I'm just cleaning up the mess you made." She tried to guilt-trip me, as she always did. She brought up the years we'd spent together, the good times. As if that could erase the betrayal. "We can fix this," she cried, her voice cracking. "We can work through it." I cut her off before she could finish. "No, we can't. You don't come back from this. Sign the papers, Claire. Or don't. Either way, we're done." I hung up the phone before she could respond. There was nothing more to say. It was over. I had made my decision, and there was no going back. Now, it was James's turn. He thought he could coast through life on charm, but I was about to make sure no one in his professional world trusted him again. He started reaching out to people who knew James but didn't know him anything. I laid out the truth, everything he'd done, the affair, the stolen money, the way he'd tried to destroy me. I didn't exaggerate. I didn't need to. I just told them the facts and let the evidence speak for itself. James thought could outrun the consequences, but he was wrong. When he tried to get another job, word had already spread. No one wanted to hire a man who'd betray his own brother for a shot at an easy life. He didn't see it coming. A week later, he called me. It was the first time I'd heard from him since I'd confronted him at his apartment. His voice was frantic, full of panic and desperation. "I can't get a job," he said. "You've ruined my reputation. You've ruined everything." I leaned back in my chair, letting his words hang in the air. I wasn't moved. I had no sympathy left for him. "You ruined your reputation, James," I said coldly. "I just made sure people knew the truth." His voice shifted, pleading. "Come on, man. We're family. This isn't supposed to be happening." The word family hit me in a way I didn't expect. That's what hurt the most. Family. He'd used that word against me, but the truth was, he wasn't family anymore. He stopped being family the moment he decided to stab me in the back. I didn't even bother to respond. I just said, "Don't call me again, James. We're done." I blocked his number before he could say anything else. Whatever happened to him from that point on was his problem, not mine. He had no one to blame but himself. I had wiped my hands clean of him. But dealing with them wasn't enough. I had to rebuild. I wasn't going to let their betrayal consume me. For too long, I had let Claire's lies and James's manipulation shape my world. I wasn't that person anymore. I needed to prove to myself that I could be better, stronger, sharper. I hit the gym harder than ever before. Every rep, every mile, every drop of sweat felt like I was taking control back. I dove back into my work, focusing on projects I had pushed aside. I reconnected with old friends, people I had distanced myself from while trying to make my marriage work. I wasn't just keeping busy. I was building the new version of myself, the one who wasn't afraid to take charge of his life. Eric said something that stuck with me. Something I hadn't fully realized. "You're not the guy I used to know," he said. "But in a good way. You're sharper. Stronger." That hit me in a way I didn't expect. I was becoming the person I was meant to be. And I wasn't going to let anyone tear that down. By the time the divorce was finalized, Claire had gone silent. She signed the papers without putting up a fight. She knew there was nothing more to gain. She disappeared, just like James did. No more calls, no more texts. She was gone, and I didn't care anymore. James, too, slunk off into the shadows. The last I heard, he had moved out of town, hoping to escape the mess he'd made. But I wasn't concerned. Let him run. Let him try to start over somewhere else. He wasn't my problem anymore. I didn't bother with him after that. I focused on myself and my future. What I realized in the aftermath of everything was that karma doesn't need anyone's help. It takes care of things on its own. James and Claire thought they could tear me down, but all they did was light a fire under me. They thought they could destroy me, but instead, they pushed me toward becoming the person I was always meant to be. The irony wasn't lost on me. Claire and James had tried to take everything I had, but in the end, they were the ones who lost. They had been caught in their own lies, their own schemes. And now, they were left to pick up the pieces of the wreckage they'd created. As for me, I was rebuilding. Stronger, sharper, smarter. They tried to burn me, but I came out of it like a phoenix. And if there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that no matter how hard life knocks you down, as long as you don't lose yourself, you can always rise again. I'm doing better now. I'm more focused, more in control, and I'm not looking back. As for James and Claire, I'm curious about how their lives will turn out. I have a feeling the consequences they're facing are just beginning. If I hear anything else about them, I'll let you know. Stay tuned. But for now, I'm finally free, and that's all that matters.